Hello everybody and welcome back to Hearts of Iron, where we've been working on stabilizing this front here, and it's better. I'm not going to call it fantastic, but it is definitely improved. But to that end, I think we should probably abandon this side of it. We're already a very, very thin tendril. So I want to select our army group here. And I'm going to alter this front line to, for now, be back to here. So we're going to pull that back, and we're going to stop this attack for the moment. Just cease attacking, and we'll just do this for right now. So we're going to pull back to here. We are going to pull back further, but that's going to take a little bit of time. Now, I also want to come up here and cease this attack. Now, as you can see, I've added a few extra people over here. We got a field marshal here. I didn't recruit any of these. These were inherited from the messy theater. We got a few army leaders over here as well. So that all looks good. I'm going to remove this offensive action for the time being. And I think we should probably start thinking about an additional army group out over here, just because the numbers aren't there as of right now. So in our overflow theater, we've got this military district. I'm going to move this into the European theater, and we're going to put in a new army group over here. But for now, there's not a lot that we're going to do here, right? This put all of the Marines here. That was not what I had intended to do. We need to remake the overflow theater and not take a screenshot. I was trying to hit backspace and I accidentally hit, I think it's F12? Yes, it is F12. Okay, so this is the overflow theater, and we want to split these guys out. So these guys are going to go into the European theater with a new army group. Now, this army group is not ready to go, right? Obviously. And we may actually want to step up our recruitment. I've already increased this to 36. Let's take it up to 48, but I'm going to, not 49, 48. I'm going to leave the tanks where they are for right now. Okay, so that seems relatively good. Now, one thing I want to check on is how are we doing on our stockpiled weaponry? Well, this isn't actually telling us. This is telling us what's needed for reinforcement, not what we actually have stockpiled. So that's not particularly useful, unfortunately. For now, it's okay. So our overflow theater has no orders assigned. Yeah, for the time being, this is just going to be area defending out over here as before. Okay, something about like that. That's fine. So I do want to start work on another army group out over here. I think that's fairly necessary, but we're just pulling these guys back for now. And we're just abandoning this little tendril that we've got going on here. And we're just falling back to this as our fallback position over here. So I think one additional army group, particularly up here, is going to be a useful thing to do. But for the time being, well, we can deploy some of these, right? I'm going to deploy some, but it's not going to be enough. That was add unit, not deploy. Let's deploy this, and then let's cancel one of these guys. That'll be absolutely fine. So we'll do that, and then we've got how many units here? This is exactly 24. So these are going to be a new army, and they're going to go into this army group. So we need an order for this army group at this point. And I want them to come up over here. They're going to be frontlining, but it's not going to be the entire length of this. Oh, that became a very short front indeed. I did not expect that. I expected this to be the entire length of this front, but okay. I want this front line to... Why can we not move this front line beyond this river? That's odd. Oh, I see why. This army didn't get assigned to the army group, I don't think. Actually, it did. This is just very strangely set up here. Okay, let's try this again. Deleting this order. Frontlining it right here. Now it became the full length of this front, which is not what we want. So we need to take our our front line here, and we need to dial that back quite a long ways. I want this army group to take maybe down to like this river in its defense. So something like that. And then this army group here is going to be pulled back as we get defenses up there. But we don't have troops there for now, so for the time being, this will stay where it is. Now, over on this front here, I definitely do want to see people pushing in over this way, and I want to see Mexico falling. I think we're very close. Just looking at how things are going up over here, I kind of want to commit to this. Get in here. Okay, so we're committing to this attack at this moment, and that will fall shortly. I want to check in down over this direction. Things are probably about the same here. Yeah. But I did notice that up in this area over here, we have a bit of a gap in our supplies. So I want to put in a supply hub about here. Hopefully we don't get pushed back to there. And we will just connect that in something kind of like this. A little further back than directly on the front lines, but about like that. Okay, so we're just trying to stabilize this front a little bit. And I want to check in on the progress of this withdrawal. Okay. These guys aren't moving. Unable to find valid path to target. Why don't you just come not find a valid path to the target out over this way? There, that's a better place for you. So we'll just pull them back. And yeah, for the moment, we're just abandoning this area. Okay, so we need this attack to cease. And then we're going to pull these back like a little bit at a time. So I want to grab this guy, and we're going to front line this over to about here for now. These tanks do need to get moving. Okay, there we go. So that looks good. And this is just going to consolidate this front together slightly better off over here. So that's absolutely fine. I'm just waiting for the tanks to finish their movement at this point. Oh, don't re-front line over here. No, this is not what we want. Pull back to here, actually. Okay, there we go. Where are you going? Why are you going here? Don't do this. Get out of there. Our guys really don't want to pull back. Understandable. I don't want them to pull back, but here we are. We just need to consolidate this front line a little bit, and that's indeed exactly what's happening. So that seems relatively fine for now. Checking in on Mexico. Looks like we have definitely been making some progress out over here. I would like... The Somali Democratic Republic just capitulated. That's potentially a big deal. What do we got going on over here? Ah, that's these guys. Okay, so this army now does not have orders. So this army can be moved wholesale into this unit right here. Why does this army... This army has 3 divisions not assigned to an order? There. That should fix that. And then these guys, they need to get assigned to this order up here. Perfect. So that'll do for right now. That is, of course, very useful for us that that has finished up. We'd love it if Yemen would be taken, but we're not actually having much success down over here at this point. These guys, we're still working on it, but they're not doing very well. Okay, how's this withdrawal going? It's fairly orderly at this time. We need to get our troops back to this point, but really, once we're here, we're going to be back to here. So that seems fine. We're just waiting for these guys to make their way on out, and they're very close. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to grab these lads, and I'm going to pull the front line back to here. We're just being very cautious and orderly with this withdrawal. So just pulling back to that position, and I want to check in on how we're doing on our fort construction down through here. Ah, we definitely need to get some forts built right up through here. That's going to be a big deal. No doubt about that. But otherwise, our fort construction out over here appears to be going fairly well. Yeah, that's going quite well. But we definitely need some forts built out over this way. Okay, so back down to this withdrawal, and we just need to wait for these guys to make their way out a bit. they're not really harassing us on this withdrawal, so that's nice. Okay. I'd really like to see Mexico falling. That would be a very, very big deal. Let's just head over here real quick and see what we've got going on here. 95% here. Okay. How long are we expecting this to last? 12 days? Okay, well, we can see we still have forces on the way in over here. So that's seeming absolutely okay. We definitely have some lost forces here. Where is this? Okay, this is probably from that withdrawal. That's understood. So these guys in this fallback line here, I want them to frontline at this point. And I want them to be assigned to the front line. I'm going to get rid of the fallback order at this point. But this is not the front line we want them to have. We're going to need to pull this front line back to about here. And then we don't want it all the way up here. This is... What army group is this? This is Army Group 1. Okay, so that's this one, presumably. And I want them going up to... Yeah, about where this ends. About there. So they're only going to be taking this small area. And that's understood. And yeah, we need more tanks here. We need more infantry as well. We're working on it. But for now, we're just falling back to a more defensible position. And just consolidating together these fronts. So that seems good. Need to make sure that there's been no changes as far as all of this goes, and there hasn't been. So that seems fine. And we're continuing to actually attack down over here. That's mildly surprising. But we're just waiting on these lads to get out of this area before we issue the final fallback order. Any moment now. Okay. So now we're going to grab these guys, and we're going to alter this front line to just go right there. And that's the final fallback order there. So that fallback was completed pretty much without incident. I like it. And it looks like we have some supply issues out over this way. No, we don't. Okay. I'm not entirely sure what's going on with that one. But we definitely don't actually have any supply issues over here. I do want to get some motorized supply depots out over this way. That seems relatively fine. Out here is another good place to build a supply depot. So I'm going to get that started. We'll make sure that that has a rail connection out over here, and then maybe down to, like, here. Something about like that. So that looks good. That supply depot went to the bottom of the queue? Why, yes, it did. Okay, I'm going to cancel these Somaliland naval bases. They're not necessary at this time. And otherwise, we'll just continue our constructions there. So that looks good at this time. Okay, so we've managed to successfully fall back a bit over here and shrink the lengths of our front line, which is good when we have a numerical disadvantage like this. We want to shrink the front line. As we can see, we've got issues like this. And these guys are in a bit of a supply dead zone here. We can lose a little bit of ground over here, and that's not that big of a deal, but we're going to want to construct maybe a little bit more fallback over this way, just in case. So that's going to be something kind of like this. We could fortify all the way to this river, but I'm putting this at the bottom of the queue. This isn't a super high priority. So if we fortify all the way to the river, that's going to make it very, very, very difficult for them to push us back all that way. And that will be absolutely fine. But this is low priority stuff over here. I'm not terribly concerned about it. We just really don't want them to push us back over here. Okay, so something along the lines of that. But it's going to be tough for them to push us back anyway. So that seems relatively good. So we'll get that underway. That's fine for right now. Supplies over here are definitely a bit dicey. But really what we need is bigger army groups. Like, that's definitely a thing. That said, some of these guys can support more army units, and we should probably think about doing that. We can't assign that, right. So in that case, we should probably check to see, we've got this up to 48. Is there any here that are ready to be deployed? Well, there's some tanks, and I'm going to deploy the tanks early. They'll finish their training on the front lines. So that's fine for now. We've got 24 units of tank here. So we need 14 of them here. So I'm going to assign 12 here right now.
Hey, come on.
And then this is infantry here. This is infantry. We could use tanks here for sure. 1 unit of tank here. And then the rest of these can go into a new army here, into this army group. Okay, so something kind of like that.
Hey,
and they're not assigned to the army group's order. So where is the army group at? They are up over here. So these guys need to be assigned to the army group order. Okay, there we go. So that'll be fine. We'll get them moving up over that way. But we clearly require additional reinforcements up there. Now, I'm just checking through here and wondering, how many of these do we want to bring up to 30-sized armies? Well, some of them can, some of them can't, right? And that depends on the leadership quality. So there is that. Checking in on the status of Mexico here. This battle is still continuing. Colombia just capitulated. Now, that is this right down here. And that means that these troops can be reassigned. Okay. We've got a bit of a mess here. So I'm going to grab these guys. I'm going to delete this order. These guys are 24 units, and that's not a huge number of units for the amount of space that we're going to have here. So I'm going to split this off into a... Actually, I want all of these units in this army. I'm going to split this into a new army group in the American theater. So we're going to assign this over to the American theater. We're to create a new army group, and that army group is going to be responsible for this front line, which is a fairly significant front line.
Hey,
and this army here... Hang on. This army is also going... This army?
Come on.
This army is also going to be part of that. So we'll just assign these guys here, and then these guys as well. So something along the lines of this. We might lose a little bit of ground as we get these guys oriented out. Now, these guys also don't have any orders. So let's make sure everything is selected here. That's 23. That is correct. They're also going to join this theater. They're just right in this area. So there we go. And then there's these that don't have any orders as well. Okay. So they're going to join this theater. We'll see how many of them can actually get there. That'll be real interesting. I don't know how many of them are actually going to be able to get there because a lot of these are going to have to evacuate, right? And then there's these guys down over here. I'm not too concerned about them for right now. Okay, so we're going to pull back over this direction, and we're going to refocus up over here. These guys, yeah, that's not going to be a thing. What I want to do up here, though, with this army group is I want to issue an offensive line, and that offensive line is actually just something like this. We want to push up through here and shorten this front line. So we want to get this bulge eliminated and just push up to this river. That should be good. So we'll get that going, and we'll see how they end up dealing with that. Now, over here in Mexico, we are currently winning this. We need to get the Americas cleaned up, of course. So if we can get an army group going here, which we basically just salvaged an entire army group, that's kind of significant. There is this army here as well. This is in the Messy Theater, and I'm actually going to assign this over to here as well. Now, this doesn't have a lot of tanks in it. That's okay. I'm not that concerned about it. We'll just assign them over here and make sure that any of these orders down here are deleted. So we've still got this army down on this side, right? And we may want to evacuate this and move this elsewhere. We could move this over to the European theater. It's going to take them a while to get there, or we could just leave them. I think I'm going to order them to the European theater. So they're going to be going all the way up over here, right? And they're going to try to make their way into here. Okay, so something along the lines of that. So we just kind of created an army group or two out of thin air there. I actually like that a lot. That was very good. Our messy theater is a lot less messy now. And we're going to be able to continue to harvest some troops out of there, I'm sure. But for right now, I'd very much like to get this eliminated. Repurposing these guys would be good. Getting this eliminated would be really good as well. Are they having supply status issues? They are. That's surprising to me. Because they have a... Oh, I see. The bottleneck is here. Let's just make sure that this is connected via rail. Because this is not right now. So that's very awkward. Let's go ahead and do that, and that should help our supply situations out over here pretty dramatically. Okay, so that looks good, and then I really, really want Mexico to get finished up here. These attacks are looking decent as of right now. I would like to attack over here as well and get this front linked back up. That would be ideal. I don't know what this Army Group 3 here... Oh, this is part of the same Army Group. Okay, this is the offensive operation. Yeah, sure. That's fine for now. So, we're really, really close to pushing into this mountain province here. And that's a big deal. If we can get Mexico City taken over, then that's absolutely huge. How much manpower do we think they have? 0. We believe that they have 0 manpower. So that is very good for us. Definitely. Now, we're currently recruiting, and I'm not going to early deploy any of these at this time. I want to let them full train if we feel like we can. So let's hop back over here, see how things are going out over this direction. I'm wondering about the status on these constructions. Okay. We've definitely managed to start building up a bunch of these. I'm queuing these up at the bottom of the queue over here. I just want to make sure that we have decent fallback lines here. Oh, this is potentially an issue. This is quite a breakthrough that they've done over here. Okay. So that's definitely a problem. It's a very tiny little spigot that they have here. Okay, I want to attack here and here. If we can encircle this, that would be huge. And they've only got this unit of tank here. So let's get in there for now. Okay, they've got 2 here now. So yeah, this is definitely a bit of a problem over here. We need to get some forces out over to the very edge of this. Wait, Saratov is currently undefended. Get in here. That's a big deal for us if we can take that. Okay, we got it. That's perfect. Start building land forts there immediately. We can immediately begin encapsulating this, and that's the idea. So, how many of this army group are actually up here at this point? It looks like some, but there's a bunch more on the way. So that is noted. We'll need to deal with that. This is not a huge breakthrough, but it is definitely a potential problem. We can trade a lot of land this direction. That's not that big of an issue, but we don't want to. We don't want to have to, right? So that's absolutely noted. I want to get these tanks to fully commit to this. Get in here. I want you guys committing to this as well. And this attack is ongoing over here, that's noted, but it's not that big of a deal. We're having a hard time with the mountainous terrain out over this way, and that's understood. We are starting to see some capitulations happening, and that's very, very good. This is a bit of an issue right over here. We need to alter this front line so that we don't have the overlap here. Okay. Now, as far as this goes, this army group is responsible for a very large section of land, and this one is not. So I want to expand this army group a little bit, and we'll give them some time to make their way up to there, and then we'll have them go to about here. Okay, there we go. So we'll do that, and then these guys, they're going to want to move back a little bit in order to not be overlapping, right? Can I grab this? Right-click and drag. no. I can't grab that. Hang on. Is that the wrong thing that I'm grabbing? This guy. Front line. Yes. Right click and drag. Okay, that would help. So we're just going to back off to about there. And hopefully, it'll take about the same amount of time for these guys to move in as it takes for these guys to move out. And that will increase our amount of defenses in this area, which is the area that I am by far the most concerned about right now. So there we go. It is time to put a cut in here, though, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, hopefully we're going to see Mexico capitulate. And this is not necessarily great down over here, but these guys do have a withdrawal down over this way. And as we get our forces situated over here... Oh, we've not ordered this attack. There we go. That would help. Perfect. Draft dodging. Okay, we'll definitely do a pay rise for the enlisted soldiers. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Dark Horse, Ethan Feldman, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, Rornaz, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.